I'll now turn our webinar over to Henry Chase, who will do our introductions of our panel. Henry?
Thank you, Judy. Good morning, everyone, or good noon. Thank you for coming. This is a ILTA-hosted event. For those of you not familiar with ILTA, it's the International Legal Technology Association, which is a nonprofit corporation which is dedicated to promoting technological information to corporate law firms and private law firms and individuals who work in those areas. We're very happy to be hosting this event. It's a real privilege for us, and to have such a great panel to be working with is really exciting. I'm only here to really host and introduce, and then I'm going to turn it over to Raphael, who will introduce himself and then proceed with the rest of the program. By the way, I am the Chief Information Officer for the law firm of Burns & Levinson here in Boston, Massachusetts. I'm also the volunteer city rep for ILTA for the Boston area, and I'm here today with Angela Dowd, who is the Regional Vice President for the Northeast region for ILTA, who is also co-host with me. Chris is Senior Counsel and Director of Division Operation RSA Security. RSA is the security division of EMC, which, as you know, is a small corporation here in the Northeast region. And it's the premier provider of security, risk, and compliance management solutions for business acceleration. They help the world's leading organization, including 90% of the Fortune 500, succeed by solving their most complex and sensitive security challenges. These challenges include managing organizational risk, safeguarding mobile access and collaboration, providing compliance, and securing vital and cloud environments. Andrea is a litigation attorney who focuses on construction, contractor, and business matters. She represents construction companies and other businesses in drafting contracts and business planning. She is fluent in both Spanish and French and has helped international clients. She is also an arbitrator and mediator and serves on a number of alternative dispute resolution panels. She exercises daily, which I don't, and has the second highest number of Fitnex points at her local YMCA. Congratulations. The Massachusetts Bar Association co-chair, Legal Law Practice Management Section Counsel, Women's Bar Association former board member, and Middlesex County Committee co-chair, American Bar Association General Practice Solo and Small Firm Division Vice Chair, Construction Committee, and God knows when you have time to exercise. We have Holly here, who is on the screen here. She is a partner at Squire, Sanders & Dempsey. Holly represents developers, investors, and financial institutions in partnership, syndication, and related financing transactions, with a particular emphasis on transactions involving low-income housing tax credit, historic tax credit, and new markets tax credit. She also represents clients in general real estate, general corporate, and logistics and distribution matters. Holly was named a Rising Star in the 2007 edition of Ohio Super Lawyers, a distinction that recognized the top 2.5% of Ohio lawyers under the age of 40 or those in practice for 10 years or less. Gregory Capel, also a friend, Senior Partner, Integrated Management Services. Greg has more than 15 years' experience in legal business consulting and legal technology management, together with a track record for strategic development and operational management and business results. As the senior partner with IMS, he is responsible for developing strategic alignment between the firm's vision and operations. Good job. Thank you. He invests in his focus and talent into helping clients understand their environment and envision the accomplishments to be achieved while keeping a steady hand on guiding a firm's expert resources and knowledge and management towards long-term value creation. He's a lot of fun to have lunch with, too. So I'm going to turn it over to Raphael. Good luck.
Thank you. Thank you, Henry.
I will take very little time. Just take a minute to lay out what we're going to do this afternoon. We've asked our panelists to make some opening remarks about their experience, advice, perhaps a couple of stories and anecdotes to get us going. After those remarks, we'll turn it open to a discussion among our panelists and with the group as a whole. And of course, all comments and questions and discussions it would be great and very welcome. Toward the as we sort of wind down in our third half hour, we'll open for questions from remote sites and webinar participants. They will write in their answers, which we'll also bring into a discussion and close with those. Okay? All right. As we move forward, because Holly is the furthest away, hello, Holly, and hello to our friends at Squire Sanders. And let me turn it over to you. Of course, Squire Sanders is a leader in many areas, but I know that AFAs and fixed fee is, of course, a daily reality in your practice. And perhaps you can tell us a little bit about what it is that you do and what works and where you plan to go.
Sure. I guess I mainly focus on housing credit transactions that use a variety of different kinds of credits. So it's transactional work, and the deals, they're all very similar in sort of the way they're structured, but an easy deal might take 40 hours to close, and a hard deal might take close to 200 hours. And we do pretty much 90% of our deals probably on a fixed fee basis. And so being able to figure out how to get to those fixed fees and how to set them correctly, I think has been something of a challenge for us. And my first comment would probably be, when you're on a fixed fee and your client knows it, they act differently. You know, they call you a lot more. They ask you a lot more questions. They ask you to do things that you really didn't sign up to do. And so trying to figure out how, both from a technological perspective and a people perspective, to make fixed fees work, I think has been a real challenge sometimes for us. It's very challenging when you have clients who do similar kinds of deals and the scope of work that they're paying you for is different. I sort of was going through a list, and I can think of probably 10 things up front that I could say, if a deal has these sort of 10 kinds of things, this is all something that would add to the base price of a deal, which is great, except that probably the biggest client I work with sort of said, I don't really care, I want a fixed price for all of our deals no matter what they're like, so whether they're easy or hard, we just want one fixed price. And that's difficult because you don't really know what kind of deals you're going to have up front. Are they going to be hard deals or easy deals, and what is the mix of deals going to be? And so I think we've really struggled to try to become more technologically efficient so that we can manage that process better. Because there are just things in the process that, you know, there may be 10 or 12 things I can name up front that will make a deal more expensive, but there are at least, you know, 100 things that could happen during the deal that will make it a lot more expensive that you just don't know about up front. So I think for us, the challenge has been how to implement the knowledge that you have about how expensive deals are with clients who want fixed fees but really aren't very interested in negotiating. They're very concerned that we look at fixed fees as a base minimum, I guess, on how much we're being paid, so that if deals are hard, we'll ask for extra money, but they don't get credit for the easy deals. And I think a lot of times we look at fixed fees as sort of the maximum of what you're going to get, and it's just people ask you to do more and more things. So I guess sort of that's where we are, and we've been doing fixed fee deals for about 15 years. But
let me turn to Chris. So Chris, you represent the client side. If an AFA is a relationship between the law firm and its client, you're the client.
Yeah, and I think what, you know, since, you know, the recession sort of hit, you know, the first thing that we started looking at was not using firms, to cut back on using all outside sources. And, you know, that's come at a price to a lot of different firms, but the company's gone, you know, through a huge, they call it an expense transformation, where they're trying to cut back on everything, cut back on travel and other vendor expenses and things like that. So when we look at it now, when we're looking to outside firms, you know, we're looking for, you know, certain areas, you know, big ticket litigations, M&A, you know, so obviously certain tax, and then other expertise. But even some of the expertise we're bringing in, like recently we hired a privacy lawyer to come in to help us with privacy issues because they were recurring over and over. You know, we're using less and less outside sources for, you know, run-of-the-mill stuff or, you know, smaller matters. We try to handle as much as we can inside. saying that, when we do use outside firms, the big thing for us are budgets. So, for instance, a quarter of my, annual budget or quarterly budget as it is tied to me making my budget. So if a firm goes and spends extra money without me knowing about it, it's just a horrible situation, both for them, or more for them for me, because I'm going to be pretty angry on the back end. But it's also a situation where a lot of the in-house lawyers have come from firms, so we also know that, we don't want to pay for training of younger associates, and we don't want, we don't want someone to pretend to be an expert when they're not, and we want to be able to call up, get quick answers, and get out on a lot of issues. So it causes a lot of friction for firms because that's not necessarily the model. So, right now I haven't used a lot of it in my own practice. We're starting to think more about it as we go forward on other matters. But it is pushing that way more and more, and I think our overall department is thinking more and more about it. I was saying on the way in, one of the things years ago, when I was a young associate, my 4th year, I got assigned to an acquisition, and we were representing the seller, and the guy negotiated a fixed fee with my firm. Now, the partner did a lousy job on it, and we blew through the costs like in the first third. And the pressure as a 4th year associate to try to both represent your client and make money for your firm was a very difficult balance to go through. And I can tell you, I sided for the client because I actually really liked the client too, which helped, I think. But I ended up having a lousy half year because probably a month of my time was never billed. So I think as you get into these things, there's got to be I think communication and in any kind of billing arrangement, but communication, really over communication, especially as you get to the upper end of any estimate you give. And then after that, I think there needs to be flexibility because, a lot of the things I mentioned, they have incredible contingencies that you can't plan for. So some transactions are very set in their ways, but other ones, in litigation especially, can be all over the map. So I think as I'm hoping to actually learn as I go through this more what people are doing because, I'm there. I think the only thing I worry about ever on a fixed fee type thing is I don't ever want to lose the attention of the firm if it becomes not profitable for them. And that I can't have from my advisor. So
it's interesting. Aside from the cost factors, you also raised the communication factor, which is something that I think also Holly pointed to as sort of a component in making this work.